Hey boaters, Keith McGowan here. I am the Outboard Dad, here to help you have a better boating experience. Today, the day is finally here. We're going to start to take apart this 150 horse 4-stroke for a rebuild. You let me know. You think it's worth it? We're going to find out. We're going to go through the paces. We're going to pull this apart together. This way we can all see, and I'd love to get your guys' opinion. I know some have no problem sharing, some might be a little reserved. Don't be reserved, share your opinion, let me know what you think. Is this going to be worth rebuilding? Now, if you remember when we ran this, we had water getting in the bottom cylinder, and we could see the steam and water shooting out the propeller. So maybe it's even more than one cylinder. We won't know until we do that complete teardown. But we did have this running, and I think we had those two lower cylinders, or maybe the bottom and the second cylinder, were a little low on compression. I don't remember the exact numbers, not going to bother with it now because we're going to tear it down anyway. So this is it, the 4-stroke. Now, you've seen me do several 2-stroke rebuilds already this year, and I've done 4-stroke rebuilds before for specific customers, but is it really worth it? Because it's going to be definitely more time and more details involved in this. And are we going to find corrosion in this block or head that's going to make it not worth the investment? Again, are we comparing to a new motor? If the corrosion isn't bad and we find another reason that we got water in there, a bad head gasket, I'm always a little leery of just replacing a head gasket and putting a motor back together again without finding out more reasons why we're getting water in those cylinders. So let's get started. We already have the side covers off. What I'd like to do first is get that lower unit off. This way when we're pulling the engine block off, we're not fighting with the drive shaft. Excuse me. Still have this little cough here. So I'm going to get the battery on this, and I guess I have to pull this out a little bit, make some room, kind of have my front area closed off and heated back there, because I'm a tightwad and don't want to heat the whole shop all night long. I have all my liquids and paints and stuff over there. So let's get this moved over on it. And I'll start taking a bunch of nuts and bolts off of it. Let's see, did I leave the battery cables hooked up? I hope so. Maybe I took the battery cables off. That wasn't very smart, was it? So rather than getting the battery cables off of something else and on this, it might be quicker. I think I can pull the lower unit off. I think I have enough room without having to tilt it up. Just took the little skeg off. Hopefully there's enough room here to drop this down completely. Okay, you never know what you're going to find, right? So, every single one of the bolts that holds this lower unit on, no grease, dry as a bone. Now, it all came out okay and clean. The center bolt there that's on the back that's underneath that skeg, I can see a little blue. Is this from the factory? Has this lower unit never come off? Is this one of those motors and boats that somebody bought and they just ran the heck out of it and never did anything to it? Come on, really? Now there is a crack in the lower unit housing, which is not uncommon for some of these Suzukis. Or did they leave it stored up and water got in it and expanded out? It's kind of hard to tell. So let's pull the rest of this lower unit off. It was pumping water okay, but we're going to pull this lower unit off. I might even take a quick look at the water pump. Let me turn my compressor off. Sorry about that. Left my compressor on. But let me get this last bolt out. It did come loose, so I'm not worried about it being, well, let me not say anything until it comes off, because it did drop down. Let's see. Get this off the rest of the way. It would be easier if I tilted it up, but I never said I was that smart. Let me get a hand on this so it doesn't drop completely. I believe there's a hose connected still, and I can see it there. There we go. That's just for the speedometer. So it doesn't look like this is going to come out without tilting it like I had hoped. But at least we can, well, yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to hook up the battery and tilt this up so that I can get this out the rest of the way. It's not like some of the older motors where you have a big cavity in there. There's a sleeve right up inside here, so there's not enough room for me to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up the battery now, tilt it up, and let's get this lower unit out of the way. But once again, dry as a bone. So is that lack of maintenance or no maintenance at all, or what? We're going to find out. Okay, lower unit's off. It's probably a good idea we did that anyway, because I was able to tilt the motor and get it level. It was kind of a little bit down, and it might be a little easier to take it off. So I'm going to get the rest of this wiring harness off because we don't need that right now. I have a couple of tubs to put everything in. So I want to make sure we keep it all nice and neat and together with my ignition switch and all, so we can fire it up when we're done, God willing. All right, get this battery out of the way. I don't need that in here, bouncing around. So I was a little concerned because some of these bolts go all the way up here to the block. It's going to be some long bolts. I'm curious if they're going to come out or not. We are going to find out right now. Also concerned about my oil level. I think it's below here, but I can check it with my dipstick, right? If my dipstick goes all the way in, and look at that milky oil. Yep. So if my dipstick goes all the way in like this, it's definitely below that line. So I shouldn't have to drain the oil first. It's probably not a bad idea. Looks like I can do that right here. So looks like that's what I'm going to do next. Let me drain the oil out of this. Okay, we got the oil drained out now. And as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing some bracketry that looks like it needs to come off. I'm not going to mess with the oil filter. We'll wait till we get it on the bench. But I'm looking at some switches here, some wires, and some brackets that probably need to come off first before we just start tearing into bolts. But I'm dying to know if these long ones are going to come apart. So let's give it a shot. That looks okay. Yeah, looks all right. So far all the long ones seem to be okay. Let's try the other side. See, I like to use my impact wrench. They're definitely a little rusty. But they're moving. All right, they all seem to be moving, all the long ones. These ones are not as long. And they're moving. All right. We got some tubage here I want to get in the picture. So I remember where it goes, where the stuff goes. Or I should say, because I won't remember where every hose goes. Right? We got a tube here. Comes over, we'll bring you in a little closer. Right? We got a tube here that comes off this, comes over this way, and goes to the block over here. Right? We got two tubes on this canister. One goes to the gray hose that goes up behind the manifold. One goes to the gray hose that goes right up here on this switch here. We got another hose over here. This large hose will be obvious. And then we got another one here that goes up to this T over here. So I'm just going to start disconnecting all these. There's another one that looks like a little drain here. Comes off the block, lower part of the block here, and goes down. But this is what I'm looking at here with this linkage is. I'm going to just try and get this linkage off of here. It doesn't look like it's attached to the block, but I don't want to take a chance of something. See, this link is connected. I guess I could just pop the link off, right? And then it shouldn't be connected that way. The other is the shifter shaft linkage, so that shouldn't be connected to the motor. So we should be okay. You got a fuel line here, snakes around. I'm going to take this plastic front off, bring you around the other side. So since you didn't see any of that, right, we got a canister here with two tubes. One gray tube goes up behind my manifold, one goes up over here to my switch. There's another tube next to the canister on the back of the engine here that goes into the, looks like where the oil pan area is, and that black tube comes up and goes to the top here. So we'll have to inspect that, see what that looks like. Then we have a drain here. I'm not sure if we saw that because I had the camera turned. I went ahead and disconnected this link for my throttle linkage here. And we'll get this plastic piece off next. Has a couple of bolts in the front here, so we'll get them out. Just want to make sure I can see as much as I can clearly before. I don't care how many blocks you've taken apart or how many years you've been doing things. It's always good to be methodical in how you do these things and record things because nobody remembers everything, especially me. So the less things I have to remember that I can keep on tape here and make sure I disconnect first, the less challenges we have on reassembly, right? That is, if we get to reassembly, right? We might get halfway through this and go, you know what? Parts motor. But let's see. So we'll get that off. That has a hose connected to it, so that's pretty self-explanatory. We have the wiring here. I'm going to bring you around the other side that connects to the power tilt and trim. So let's come around there. So I'm going to take the bolts from this. Right, this has a little vent on it. I'm not sure even what this is here. Is this to hook up a hose? Maybe you can hook up a hose and do a flush here on the Suzukis. And that may be correct. So I'm going to go ahead and take this hose off and then put these bolts away. And I'll put it with this piece so it stays together. Now, some of these hoses may break, that's okay. I like to keep them intact if we can. Sometimes a little push me pull you helps. Looks like there was a little sealer somebody put on that. So that'll go aside now, and I'll put the bolts with it. So now I'm looking at the wiring. I have some tubing that goes through here on this. I have a tubing that comes from down below. So it looks like this tube, there's another plastic cover on the sides here. I'm not going to take that off just yet because I'm just going to try and disconnect these hoses where they go. So let's pull this rubber piece off because that's kind of holding all of this together here. Looks like it routes through the rubber. So let's see, this one comes over here. So that must go on an air intake or something, or nope, that goes down to my speedometer. So we can remove that. This other one comes up over here and goes to this T, right? So there's a little T here on this side of the block, and looks like I need to take the bracket off to get to the clamp. That does not want to come off. Nope. So let's see if we can get a little more creative with the plastic here. See how flexible it is. Yeah, I think we can pull this out enough to get to the clamp. There we go. Sometimes you got a little get a little creative. So then what I'll have to do is I'll have to get a manual that shows me all these hose routings, right? Now I'm going to take this clamp off because I want to save it. I guess I don't have to pull it all the way through. It can stay there. So let's put the clamp back on so it doesn't get lost. All right, so now I have power tilt and trim plug here. That's pretty straightforward. That's going through this rubber piece. Then I have this here, which is probably my trim sender. So we can pop that off. There's a little clip on there, so that's this one. And then there's one more on another. So one's trim sending unit and one is, I don't know what the other one does. I'd have to look inside there, but we'll disconnect it. And it's nice they use different color plugs on these so we won't mix them up when we go to put it back together. This one I'm going to need a little screwdriver for. All right, so that's that one. And let's see what else we have here. Looks like we got a bolt here. Looks like this is attached to this bracket, so I am going to take that bracket off. Let's get a little closer look at that. Looks like we're going to need some 10mm wrenches. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, because this is all attached here. So let's see if we can get this bracket off of here first, and then we'll assess how it goes. Looks like the bigger ones should come off. Little like canister piece here in the way. I don't know if that bolt will come out all the way or not. So while I'm doing this, looks like this large hose has to come. We got some more hoses over here. So we'll flip the camera around the other side. This way we'll get a good visual of these other hoses that are connected to the engine before we start getting the engine hoist hooked up. Break half of them and end up buying more parts. Not that I've ever done that before. It'd be nice to get this on the workbench, get a bird's eye view of how everything works. This one feels like it might be a little corroded. Some places you just can't get a ratchet or a speed wrench into, you know. Just gotta go one turn at a time, or a quarter turn at a time. Just looking at these wires here while I'm doing this. I like to leave as much as I can connected because then there's less guesswork, right? Just looking at the way that bolt's coming out. Also studying how long it is, because the other one's the same length and it's already hitting this plastic piece here. I'm gonna have to get a flashlight in here because everything's black. That's bolted. No, it's not. Looks like I have a bolt here and a bolt here that I don't think I'm gonna be able to get to unless I take the manifold off. So hopefully this will come out without having to mess with that. Somebody did grease this because I see the grease fitting on here is all loaded up with grease. So that one is out. Yeah, I think we're going to have to take this off of here in order to get that out. So we'll do that in our next episode. We'll probably have to pull this off first. We'll examine that a little further, and we'll continue on getting this block off and getting ready to see if it's worth a rebuild. So please like, subscribe, send any comments that you have, and let me know your thoughts on rebuilding a 4-stroke. It's a 2006 150 horsepower Suzuki motor with milky oil. Have a great day.